Over the past few weeks, I've talked quite a bit about related board members in a nonprofit. Now, we briefly touched on hiring issues, but I promised more detail in a coming video. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at how a private foundation can hire a disqualified person. Hi, I'm Greg McRae, founder and CEO of Foundation Group, and welcome once again to our 501c3 University channel. So briefly, let's recap what a disqualified person is. The IRS defines a disqualified person as an officer, director, or trustee of the organization, a key employee, or someone who is paid $150,000 or more a year by the organization and or makes key management decisions in a day-to-day capacity. A substantial contributor who gives more than 2% of the total contributions received by an organization from its inception, a family member of one of the above, and or a foundation, trust, or corporation of which someone owns or controls more than 35% of it. In other words, a disqualified person is someone who is potentially in a position to unfairly benefit from the nonprofit based on their insider status. Check out our video on disqualified persons for a more detailed discussion on all of that. But the topic for today is hiring a disqualified person, particularly in a private foundation. Public charities need to make sure they're operating at arm's length, same as a private foundation. Now that said, it's not so big of a deal for a public charity to hire a board member or other insider. Since the IRS expects public charities to have an independent board, disqualified persons can be hired by that board and it still be arm's length. Due diligence is still required, of course, and the salary has to be reasonable, but there isn't really that much scrutiny in these situations. Everything's different when it's a private foundation, however. The IRS never considers a private foundation board to be independent, even if it literally is. That's just the way it is. Every member of the board of a private foundation is a disqualified person, and they, in general, are prohibited from being employed and paid by the foundation. But there is an exception to this rule. The IRS will allow a disqualified person to be hired by the foundation, subject to 3 requirements. 1, the job must be for personal services. We'll define that in a minute. 2, the role must be ordinary and necessary. And 3, the compensation must be reasonable. So let's take these one at a time. First, what are personal services? Now, to make it simple, I like to substitute the word professional for personal. Now, in fairness, that's not an accurate definition every circumstance, but it's close most of the time. Think accounting or legal work, for example. If a disqualified person is a CPA, then the board can hire that person to perform accounting services for the foundation. Same for an attorney. It's certainly not limited to these professions, but you get the idea. There are other scenarios that might qualify that don't involve your garden variety acronymed professional. We work with a client whose foundation is a little unusual in that it isn't a grant-making foundation, but rather conducts direct services to persons with PTSD and other difficult mental health issues. The board president is also the paid executive director because he is one of only a handful of psychiatry professionals nationwide educationally qualified to oversee the programs this foundation provides. His example, though, is extreme. A disqualified person being hired to conduct the foundation's programs usually will not satisfy the definition of personal services. His situation works only because of his very unique qualifications, and we had to fight the IRS to even get it approved. We often work with private foundation clients who want to hire a board member to manage grant making or other such activities, and that will rarely work. Again, think professional when you hear personal. The second qualification is that the job itself is ordinary and necessary. Now, this is not usually a difficult hurdle. It simply means the job must get done, and if the disqualified person isn't the one hired to do it, someone else will have to be. Ordinary and necessary. Enough said. Now, this is a typical situation where the IRS lays out an expectation, then does a terrible job of defining it. So what is reasonable compensation? Basically, it means fair compensation that isn't excessive. A nonprofit can establish that by clearly defining the job and then benchmarking it against similar positions at similar organizations to come up with a compensation package. Foundation needs to document this carefully, as the burden of proof is always on the board to justify hiring a disqualified person in the first place. I got to wrap up by talking about penalties. I wish I could say there's a lot of loopholes in this, but there isn't. If the situation doesn't clearly satisfy all 3 requirements, hiring a disqualified person could result in nasty penalties and excise taxes for all involved. The IRS does not have an expansive view of personal services in particular, So if you plan on hiring a disqualified person, get counsel before assuming your job role qualifies. Mistakes here are costly. A private foundation hiring a disqualified person is tricky business. I hope this brief discussion helped it make a little more sense. If you liked this video, please click the like button. It really does help us get this in front of more people who need it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and click the little bell icon to be notified of new content when we post it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.